Hi guys, I want to take a few moments to tell you a story of when my kids totally humbled me. Having kids is a massive blessing, and it's one that we try not to take for granted. Seeing these two little human beings come into existence almost out of nowhere, complete with body, mind, soul and spirit, really is amazing. You get a close-up view of God's phenomenal design work. And while you strive as a parent to teach them and train them and raise them well, there are these moments where they actually remind you and teach you something quite profound. And this is one of those moments. A while back we started giving them pocket money, as you do, and we came up with a plan, and that was to give them their pocket money in silver coins. So they get a 50p, 2 20s and a 10, and the deal is every time they get pocket money they have to choose one coin to put in the giving jar for God. Our hope was that if we did this right from day one, giving and in particular tithing would just be really normal to them. But as is so often the way in life, things don't always unfold the way you expect them. So what actually started to happen was they got really excited about the giving jar, about giving to God, and sometimes they put all their pocket money into it. Other times they give God the 50p because that was the biggest coin. Sometimes they would give 70 or 80 pence and they just keep 10 or 20 for themselves. As a parent, you'd think I'd be really proud watching my kids discover the joy of giving, but actually I was in a little world of pain. I really had to bite my lip. I was looking on thinking, don't you realise you could buy all these amazing toys with this money? If you save it up, you could buy stuff, you could buy sweets, you could have a fun time. You only have to put the 10p in, you only have to give 10%. It obviously revealed the materialism that's still very much present in my own life. So we started doing this giving jar about 20 months ago, and since then my kids have definitely learned the value of money, that coins equals toys, but they still give loads into the giving jar, and it's still painful for me as a parent. But that's what kids do, they can teach you something beautiful. And naturally the passage which we all go to when we talk about childlike faith is Matthew 18, where it says, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. And it goes on, but the interesting thing is it never uses the word faith. It uses quite a different word, and probably a less popular word. It says whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. It's this word humble, humility. In Jesus' day, children were very much second-class citizens. They had no rights, they had very little choice about their future. The same is largely true of our kids. They're very much dependent on us for pretty much everything. There's very few significant decisions that they really get to decide. And what Jesus is saying is that we actually need to be like children in that respect. We need to put ourselves in a position of humility where we're not in control of our lives. Giving is definitely something that humbles us. 10%, if you give that, is a huge amount of money to a lot of us. It's just enough to actually take a lot of control away from us and put us into that position of dependence on God where we really have to rely on Him. This actually applies to our whole lives, lived out as an act of worship as we seek to follow Jesus. When you read the Bible, there's no denying that Jesus sets the bar incredibly high. He says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. If you're alive and in the UK today, we are some of the richest people to ever walk on the face of the earth. Some of this stuff is so difficult. Why is it that Jesus requires these difficult and painful things from us and then throws out statements like, my yoke is easy, my burden is light? The best example I can think of right now is driverless cars. There's a lot of people saying that in the future these are definitely going to be a thing. And if that's the case, you can imagine there's going to be this moment of taking your hands off the steering wheel where you relinquish control, and it's going to be terrifying. It's going to be nerve-wracking. Although we may have been told many times this thing can do the job better than you, it's actually only going to be borne out through experience. that we really trust it. And it's the same with Jesus. We have to go through the initial pain of taking our hands off the steering wheel of our lives, relinquishing control. It's going to take a while, but eventually we're going to realize he can do a much better job. My yoke is easy, my burden is light, but the only way we get there is through childlike humility. We can rest because Jesus is in control.